If you're a software engineer who has worked with different companies, you've likely felt the need to rewrite code instead of understanding it at least once in your life. We can assure you that this is not an uncommon situation. Most developers prefer to discard old code and start fresh. This is one of the mysteries of software engineering. You have a code base that is proof-tested and sometimes running in production, yet there is an illogical part of your brain that wants to rewrite everything from scratch. We're trying to answer the question, why is this irrational behavior urging you? The answer is rooted in a fundamental law of programming. This is what we'll explore in this episode. Before starting, we'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel and join our developer community. Just visit fawn.dev/join. On November 14, 2000, Netscape released its 6th version, 3 years after releasing the latest version, the 4th one. Netscape even skipped the 5th version of its browser. During these 3 years, the competition was able to take the greater part of the market. Netscape web browser was once dominant, but lost to Internet Explorer and other competitors in the so-called first browser war. Its market share plummeted from more than 90% in the mid-1990s to less than 1% in 2006. In 1998, an informal group called the Mozilla Organization was formed and largely funded by Netscape to coordinate the development of Netscape 5, which would be based on the Netscape 4.5 source code. However, the development team judged that the aging code of this previous version is difficult to work with. The decision was taken to scrap Netscape 5 and rewrite the source code. The rewritten source code was in the form of the Mozilla web browser, on which, with a few additions, Netscape 6 was based. At one point, Netscape was the most popular browser, but now it's just a discontinued project. There are probably many reasons, but the main one was the decision to throw away old code and start everything from scratch. From a technical point of view, rewriting the code base was probably the best solution. However, was it the best choice from a business point of view? In his book, Working Effectively with Legacy Code, Michael Feathers said, "We can't let best be the enemy of better." This is the lesson we should take from this story. There's a subtle reason that programmers always want to throw away the code and start over. The reason is that they think the old code is a mess. And here is the interesting observation: they are probably wrong. The reason that they think the old code is a mess is because of a cardinal, fundamental law of programming: it's harder to read code than to write it. This is what Joel Spolsky, the co-founder of Stack Overflow, explains in one of his blog posts called Things You Should Never Do. Programmers want to start over because they think it will be easier and more fun than trying to figure out how the old code works. This desire to start over is not unique to individual developers, as companies have also fallen into this trap. Joel continues and says it's important to note that old code does not acquire bugs just by sitting on your hard drive. In fact, old code has been used and tested, and bugs have been found and fixed. The hairs and stuff on old code are usually bug fixes that have been added over time. Furthermore, old code has been battle-tested and has proven to work in production environments. Rewriting code from scratch can be incredibly time-consuming and costly, leading to a loss of valuable knowledge and understanding of the codebase. This lack of understanding can affect the efficiency of the software and its ability to meet the needs of the business, ultimately leading to a decrease in profits and a potential loss of business. As Spolsky states, the idea that new code is better than old is patently absurd. Old code has been used. It has been tested. Lots of bugs have been found, and they've been fixed. In many cases, probably most of the time, developers always want to discard old code and start anew because it's harder to read code than to write it. Consider this a law in programming. Old code has value, it has been tested, and bugs have been fixed. So instead of starting over, developers should focus on improving and maintaining the existing code base. Refactoring is better in most cases than starting over. It is extremely helpful in preserving reusable functionalities and valuable knowledge. So always weigh the pros and cons and consider if there are alternative solutions. That said, there are of course situations where rewriting code from scratch is necessary. For example, when the code base is extremely outdated. Fellow developer, think before you rewrite. With great power comes great responsibility. That was 5 minutes programming. Please subscribe and share this episode with your friends to show your support for our project. See you tomorrow.